first question, social studies. This building was constructed in 1941 to 1943 as a central location for the Defense Department's predecessor, the U.S. War Department, which had previously been housed in offices throughout Washington, D.C.
Centennial.
The Pentagon.
That is correct.
Please make sure your hands are back by your...
General knowledge. Benjamin Franklin advised that a man would have health, wealth, and wisdom by doing what? A, saving a penny. B, using little strokes. C, making haste slowly. D, knowing the company he keeps. E, going to sleep early and getting up early. Going to sleep early and getting up early. English. What kinds of words are illustrated in these lines? The farm was designed to produce produce. The dove dove into the trees. The insurance was invalid for the invalid.
Centennial.
Homophones?
That is not correct. Homographs. Math. What is the sum of the positive factors of 48?
Peoria.
11.
That is not correct.
Centennial.
60?
That is not correct. Answer is 124. Science multiple choice. The term empirical is most accurately described as a conclusion based on A, intuition, B, careful theoretical propositions, C, extrapolating from the specific to the general, or D, experimentation and observation.
Centennial.
D.
That is correct. Social studies. It began with papal coronation in 962 of the German king Otto I as the first emperor and lasted until Francis II's renunciation of the title at the instigation of Napoleon in 1806. Name this loose federation of European...
Centennial.
Holy Roman Empire.
That is correct. General knowledge. What did the old lady swallow to catch the dog in the children's song, There Was an Old Lady Who Swallowed a Fly? The answer is goat. English. Secular is the antonym of
Centennial.
Religious.
Yes, that is correct. Math. One true one requires 4 dimensions, but the 3D ones still look pretty cool. Name this item made by sewing 2 Mobius strips together.
Centennial.
Klein bottle.
That is correct. Science. Actually, social studies. Most of the powers of the American states come from what amendment?
Centennial.
The 10th.
That is correct. General knowledge. What year did the Great Chicago Fire take place? (1871). English. These two very old people are the father and mother of Mr. Bucket. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. English. To Kill a Mockingbird, Jem and Scout are saved by Boo Radley, who is an object of fear and suspicion to them at the beginning of the novel. This is an example of situational.
Centennial.
Irony.
That is correct. Math. A kilobyte of computer memory is not exactly 1,000 bytes, but 2 to the 10th bytes. 32 kilobytes is actually 2 to the 15th bytes, which is how many? $32,768. Multiple choice social studies. What ancient Greek spawned astronomy research from his famed academy? A. Aristotle.
Peoria.
Aristotle.
That is not correct. B. Aristarchus of Samos. C. Empedocles. D. Plato. Plato. Social studies. In 1803, the Senate ratified this document with a vote of 24 to 7. The Emperor of France offered to sell some prime real estate for less than 3 cents per acre in order to generate.
Centennial.
Louisiana Purchase.
That is correct. General knowledge. The Vermont Quarter features what kind of trees?
Peoria.
Maple.
That is correct. English. This illustrates what form of literature? Bitter after being snubbed from membership in the Axis of Evil, Libya, China, and Syria today announced they had formed the Axis of Just as Evil.
Centennial.
Satire.
That is correct. Math, multiple choice. Which of these containers holds the most volume? A 1500 cc graduated cylinder. B, a 2-liter bottle. C, a 46-ounce can. D, a half-gallon jug.
Centennial.
2-liter bottle.
That is correct. Science, multiple choice. In fruit flies with the curly wing mutation, the wings will be straight if the flies are kept at 16 degrees Celsius. The most probable explanation for this is that A, fruit flies with curly wings cannot survive at high temperatures. B, the environment influences wing phenotype in these fruit flies. C, height temperatures increases the rate of mutations. And D, wing length in these fruit flies is directly proportional to temperature.
Peoria?
B.
That is correct. Social studies. Civil war, increasing desertification, and mass starvation continue to debilitate Africa's geographically largest country named
Centennial?
Sudan.
That is correct. General knowledge. How many stars were on the American flag in the year 1940?
Peoria?
48.
That is correct. English. Identify a word or words that must be part of an infinitive for it to be a perfect infinitive.
Centennial?
Past participle.
That is not correct. Have or have been.
No.
Hmm?
Oh, sorry. I retracted the challenge.
Okay. Science, social, multiple choice. A scorpion stalks, kills, and then eats a spider. Based on its behavior, which ecological terms describe the scorpion? A, producer, herbivore, decomposer. B, producer, carnivore, heterotroph. C, predator, carnivore, consumer.
Centennial?
C.
That is correct. Social studies. What river connects Le Havre and Paris?
Centennial?
Zine. Zine. S-E-I-N-E.
That's correct. Math. A company labels its product with a 3-character code. Each code consists of 2 letters, not necessarily different, from the 26 letters of the English alphabet, followed by 1 digit. What is the total number of such codes that are available for labeling that company's product? It? The answer is 6,760. General knowledge. In the Civil War, General Sherman is best known for his march on what city?
Centennial?
Savannah.
That is not correct. Atlanta. English. These are elements of what kind of novel? Ancient mysterious prophecy, supernatural events, omens, portents, dreams, visions.
Peoria.
Gothic.
That is correct. Science, multiple choice. The concept that new varieties of organisms are still evolving is best supported by A, the increasing need for new antibiotics, B, the increasing number of individuals in the human population, C, the decreasing number of new fossils discovered in undisturbed rock layers, or D, the decreasing activity of photosynthetic organisms.
Centennial.
A.
That is correct. General knowledge. It was inspired by the band's interest in Celtic lore and the occult. The record company considered it too long to be successful, but it was released anyway on the band's fourth album, variously named Symbols or Zoso. Identify the song by Led Zeppelin, the most requested song in radio history that Wayne was not allowed to play in the music store.
Centennial.
Stairway to Heaven.
That is correct, and that is the final question for this half. Welcome back. General knowledge. Thousands of people died in the Great San Francisco earthquake that took place in what year? (1906). English. What story by Hans Christian Andersen could have been entitled The Monarch's Daughter and the Edible Seed of a Legume? That was too late, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The Princess and the Pea. Math. What is the sum of all the integers between negative 12.1 and 3.3? Negative 72. Science. While at Berkeley, Melvin Calvin used this radioisotope to decipher many of the complex processes of photosynthesis. Carbon-14. Social studies. What is the one state that has a coast on the Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic Ocean?
Centennial.
Florida.
That is correct. General knowledge. Name the tiny, thin-walled air sacs in the lungs.
Peoria.
Alveoli.
Yes, that is correct. English. A monologue to the audience that reveals a character's thoughts and feelings is...
Peoria.
Soliloquy.
That is correct. Math, multiple choice. In the standard equation for an ellipse, what conic section do you get if you change the plus sign in the addition to a minus?
Centennial.
Hyperbola.
That is correct. Science multiple choice. In what phase of mitosis do the chromatids first separate from the spindle? A, anaphase, B, telophase, C, metaphase, D, prophase.
Peoria,
D.
That is not correct.
Centennial,
Anaphase.
That is correct. Social studies. These people all held what position in the U.S. government? Edward Levi, Griffin Bell, Benjamin Civiletti, William French Smith, Edwin Meese, Richard Thornburg, William Barr, Janet Reno, John Ashcroft, and Alberto Gonzalez. Attorney General. General knowledge. What are the tiny hair-like structures located in the nose and windpipe called that help rid the body of pathogens?
Centennial,
Celia.
That is correct. English. What kinds of services are the Associated Press, Canadian Press, Reuters, and United Press International? Wire News Service. Science. He discovered the final pathway by which food molecules are broken down into energy in living tissues. Identify this German-born chemist who has the cycle named for him.
Centennial,
Krebs.
That is correct. Social studies. Whose son was Bruno Hauptmann convicted of kidnapping and killing in 1932? Charles Lindbergh. General knowledge. This college was the first college to be established in the United States.
Centennial,
Harvard.
That is correct. General knowledge. Name the actress who played the first victim of Norman Bates in the movie Psycho. Janet Leigh. Science. It takes place in the cell body and forms the backbone of cellular respiration. Name this process that turns glucose into pyruvate.
Centennial,
Glycolysis.
That is correct. Social studies. This country was first mentioned in 1067, and by the early 12th century, it had become the center of an independent principality. It is also the seat of a music conservatory, opera and ballet companies, and several theaters and museums. Name this city located on the Svizhlak River that is the capital of Belarus. Minsk. Social studies. Who refused to move to the back of the bus?
Peoria,
Rosa Parks.
Say it again.
Rosa Parks.
That is correct. English. Which word is the best synonym for the word endow? A, broken, B, grant, C.
Centennial?
B.
That is correct. General knowledge. Identify the only Semitic language that's an official language of the United Nations.
Centennial?
Arabic.
That is correct. Science. What three parts make up the carpel of a plant? Stigma, style, and ovary. Social studies. Appointed by Lyndon Johnson in October of 1967, who was the first African American member of the U.S. Supreme Court?
Peoria?
Thurgood Marshall.
That is correct. English. Early in the spring of 1750, in the village of Jafur, 4 days upriver from the coast of Gambia, West Africa, a man-child was born to Omoro and Binta Kinte. Roots. General knowledge. A collection of 15 coins contains nickels and dimes. If the coins all add up to $1, how many of the coins are nickels?
Peoria?
10.
That is correct. English. The phrase, "join everyone's favorite club," is an example of which propaganda technique?
Peoria?
Bandwagon.
That is correct. Math. What nickname is often used for the Gaussian or normal distribution comes from how it looks when it's graphed?
Centennial?
Bell curve.
That is correct. Science. The astronomical symbol for the planet Pluto is a combination of the letters P and L, not only because they're the first two letters of Pluto, but because they are the initials of what scientist who spent years trying to find Pluto before he died in 1916. Percival Lowell. Social studies. These are major cities in what country? Bruges, Charleroi, Ghent, Antwerp.
Centennial?
The Netherlands.
That is not correct. Belgium. That's the last question in that one. Huh?